Hello out there, welcome to my station, Horrors of History, and this is episode number 3 of Freya Fridays, where we will talk a little bit about the paranormal. Normally, I'll have one of my devices with me to investigate, but I have not unpacked them from the last trip. I was supposed to do a paranormal investigation at Mercy Brown's, but I figured I was going to give the young lady a rest. Something about it didn't seem right. It was her birthday, so I'm like, you know what? No, let her rest in peace. I think her poor spot has been investigated enough. Let the young lady lie. She had some really horrible stuff happen to her, and if you don't know the story of Mercy Brown, you can look it up. Definitely do not go through Wikipedia. Here's a little rundown, a little background story behind the beautiful young woman. She had gotten really sick from tuberculosis, like most of her family did not survive. It took a while to get her into the ground. When they did, her brother had actually gotten ill as well. They sent him up to the mountains to a tuberculosis area out in the west. He didn't do well there. Well, he was doing better. Came back, still wasn't doing well. There was some sort of rumor that was going around about the vampirism when, taking up the bodies of the original members of the family, and they had shown states of decay, but when they took up Mercy's, she showed no states. It's kind of foolish to think of that at that time period, like I said, late 1880s into the 1890s, vampirism was still considered a thing, to the point where it caused a really a bad frenzy. There's another one. I didn't get to her spot today, Nellie Vaughn's, because it had gotten dark by the time I got there, and you don't want to trespass in cemeteries at night. That is trespassing. You can get arrested for that, especially in Rhode Island. They take that very seriously. So it's like it was definitely like an outbreak of folks that were going around thinking this stuff was real. It didn't get anywhere near, fortunately, anything like the Salem witchcraft trials, which thank God we didn't get to that point. But the basis there is still in my mind. It baffles me a little bit that we got to that level that late in the 1800s. It really doesn't, because there are times now where superstition really can run rapid, and like even in the 1980s and early 1900s, like one of the reasons they called it Vampire Highway is they thought that the woman was vampires, and they nicknamed it that, although like it really had nothing to do with vampirism. And the original name of the highway is called Victory Highway, by the way. But that was because of World War II. That's what the soldiers used to come back on. Now, let's get a little bit into the paranormal while we're doing that, since I gave you a little versus on that. And so a lot of people, they got a very superstitious, even into the early 1900s and the 1980s and stuff, and they were messing with her graveyard. Digging her up, everything. I mean, no different than what her family did to her, but very disrespectful. I think if there was ever a time where the heavens above would allow someone to come down and interact with such a situation, that would be it. So I think that's possible. I do have a couple questions I was asked the other day, and I'll answer them to the best of my ability. As far as I'm going to be upfront and honest with you guys. I think I told you guys the first story of my paranormal experience was actually in my older house. But as far as being an expert, no, I'm not an expert. Anybody that says they're an expert in the field of this is like, talking out their ass. There's no such thing as a paranormal expert. It just doesn't exist. Are there people that seem to know a lot of about the stuff? Yes. As far as experts, no. There's nothing to the science to make it 100%. So a lot of it is trial and error. A lot of it is experiments. A lot of the times you can debunk half the stuff. Actually, more than half of it. It's only that 5% that I tell people that I would go back at and say, this is probably paranormal. Now, have I had a lot of paranormal experiences? Yes, I have. Have I seen any full figures that I can make out? Not in my eyes. The only time I ever caught a figure was in my early 20s, and it was by accident. And I didn't even know it was back there. So no, I haven't done that. Have I been touched by spirits? Yes, I have been touched. I have been scratched. I think I've been followed. I can't say 100% like what was happening to me was paranormal, but I'm pretty sure I have been followed back home, and I have been harassed in my living spaces. One of my, let's say, past people in my life used to call me an effing magnet, because whenever I went out, I would bring something back in. Is it true? Maybe. Is it not? There's a possibility of that too. Now, I was asked what type of gear do I use, and when I could give you a little quick answer for that. When I was younger, next to nothing. VHS player, my ears, a lot of it. I didn't have any fancy recorders, any fancy gear for that. I never played with a Ouija board in the cemetery. It wasn't the fact that it was a Ouija board. It's just I've always had that impression that it's not the board. Is the minute you give whatever spirit or ever entity there acknowledgement that it's there, you're opening up a communication with it, and it knows you know it's there, and it can create that bond, rather bad or good. And a lot of us really don't know how to shut those doors. We only make speculations on how to make them go away. And not 100% of the time does it work. But now I have, as far as gear, I have a K2. I have a digital recorder. A black and white camera are always good. The exposed stuff for that. I do have a video camera, digital, and a trail camera right now. And I have what they call the little ones, that GoPros. So I do have a couple cameras. And a pretty good app on I use off the store there. Not 100% the app's not 100% accurate all the time, but there's a couple times where I've had some interactions with that where it has been pretty credible with that. I don't bring a lot, and it's a lot of times too when I go out on spots, it's gonna be practically what I experience, because in a lot of areas, like sometimes I'm foolish and I forget to bring batteries, and stuff that's out there will drain stuff. It will pull away when it's getting ready to appear. I've gotten better with that, but a lot of times it was word of mouth. Now, what type of I got asked what type of experiments do I do? And a lot of times I like to actually live the time period, address the time period, introduce stuff that would have been in the time period, to try to fuel the atmosphere. One of my favorite times to actually do an investigation is actually around the time of someone doing a reenactment of a battlefield. And as sad as it is, that's almost like it sparks the atmosphere and what's around it to interact. And I've gotten a lot of good evidence where I can't really 100% say it's a ghost, but there's like maybe a 4 to 5% chance that it could be. So I do like that method. Now, as far as methods that I do not enjoy, antagonizing is not enjoyable, and it's dangerous. So it's like, I always tell people, you can't see it, and you're going to sit there and antagonize it, and it can see you, and you don't know what form or what type of energy that is that's around you that you're antagonizing. You don't have that sense to pick that up. It's not the best idea. to do that. That's the only one that I tell people. Investigating by yourself can be dangerous. Like I'm not one to say not to do it because I do it myself, but it can be dangerous. Make sure you get some sort of faith in something, rather it's your daughters, a tree branch, a pine cone, religion. Make sure you got some really good faith backing you up, because a lot of the places, like when I leave there, you got to be stern, and sometimes I'm telling you it doesn't work all the time. You tell them stay back. Like I said, sometimes they don't listen and they come in with you. The other thing I'll tell you, never ever give up your energy without your permission to them to drain it. I've had paranormal groups do that to me, and I don't return back to them. That's not cool. And don't give it permission to follow you home. Really don't, because it's almost like you're asking for trouble when you do that. So those are some of the don'ts that I don't do. Now, I've got asked, what groups do you belong to? And I don't belong to any groups. I have tried it. I have tried the paranormal group route. Not a fan of it. It's not because of the people. Like, I will go do investigations with people in groups, but I will not put myself as part of a group member. One, there's just a lot of them. I'm not saying all, but a lot of them do have that drama factor that I don't want to deal with. I really don't. I'm out there in my mind having a good time because I like this hobby. I don't need the drama and the the I'm this, I'm that, I'm this. We got to sell this many T-shirts to get ourselves out. It's very important to have our name on because someday we're going to be on television. No, I don't play with that stuff. I never started doing the paranormal stuff in the first place when I was a kid, thinking I was going to be on television. It was really cool when the Ghost Hunters came out, I'm not going to lie, and I'm good friends with quite a few of those guys. It's just not my thing. I'd rather do the stuff by myself or, tag up with people here and there, but nothing really tied down. Because you can get, sometimes people get pissy if you're in a group and you go investigate with another group, and it's like, how dare you go out with those guys? I've had two really bad experiences with groups, and I'm not going to give their names out, but I had one. This goes back a long time ago when I first started this, and I started in my clown gear. They were asking me to come out with them. Yeah, I was willing to pay like gas money and stuff to get down there, but then there were dues. But the dues monies on top of paying the gas, they wanted me to be an experiment in my clown gear in a psycho ward, but wanted me to pay to do this. And I'm no rocket scientist, but you're asking me to pay to be an experiment in a psycho ward dressed up as a clown. That the repercussions could have been really bad, and I had to pay for that. I'm like, no, I'm all set. And then again, probably about 6-7 years later, I had thought about it with another unit, joining up with them, and it's just, well, we need dues. Dues for what? Your gear's all paid. Like, I can see helping pay for gas, but you say you're non-profit. Like, what am I paying dues for? Dues to go investigate a cemetery, go investigate free stuff, because they weren't going in places that charged. So it's like, what am I paying dues for? Like, I can see if I was paying dues to get into places that they were going to, I'll help with that in some investigations. I'll pitch in, because a lot of these historical structures, they take donations to keep the places up, and I'm definitely for that. But paying dues for getting nothing out of it, just to be called the lead tech guy or lead paranormal guy or lead investigator guy or lead historian guy, it is like, you look into some of that stuff and you're like, where's your certificate that says you're lead tech guy? What school did you go to? What school did you go to become lead historian? And a lot of them don't have answers for that. Like I said, nothing against groups. You do you. It's just not my thing. So it's to each their own. So the last question I'll answer, I got asked what was one of the most, I guess, the scariest spots I've ever investigated. And I have to say it was a private investigation with a couple friends up in Smithfield, and this was the one and only time that I'm pretty sure we were encounters with something demonic, and I don't recommend that to anybody. It's not a good feeling. The atmosphere is horrible, and you leave the place feeling dirty on top of what you just did. And that was a private residence, and the worst part of it is the husband didn't believe, so even after cleansing the area, the demon returned. Because if you don't have that belief system, like I said, it'll come back, and it tortured the wife and the dog, and the wife actually ended up leaving him because of his doubts and thinking she was crazy. And some of the evidence that she had on there was very credible to what was going down, and the stuff that I experienced that night with a couple of my investigators was definitely credible as far as that goes. But that was the scariest place, and I'm not going to give the name of the place out, but it's probably it. Cemeteries, no, they don't scare me. Houses, a lot of times people go into the houses and it feels like going into my grandmother's house. It might have a spirit in there, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad place. So now I'll give you one thing. One of the things that will normally lead me to thinking a place probably doesn't have a ghost in it or spiritual stuff in there. One, the first thing I look at is the atmosphere going in there. If you got a lot of animals and the animals are chill, does it mean it's not haunted? No. Does it mean it's haunted with something really bad? Absolutely not. Like, if a place has something really nasty inside of it, those animals will sense that stuff real quick. Now, the other thing that sometimes will set me off, like, as far as my believing in stuff, and it's not 100% because sometimes you never know. If you guys are listening, please answer this. Do they give out white dresses in the afterlife to every female that passes away? Because it almost seems like it's a constant thing when I go to a place and they say, oh, we have a woman in a white dress that walks the hall, or a woman in a white dress walking the field, a woman in a white dress picking people up on the side of the road. There must be a sale on white dresses. That's usually another thing. They'll be like, oh man, they're probably watching some show and it's clicked into their mind. Did they see a woman in a white dress? Maybe they did. I don't ever like bash people with that, but it's just that will usually send me in. Oh no, I don't know about this. And a lot of times too, the last thing that will really mess up my terms of investigating, if I go into a basement and an attic and the wiring's all off inside there, you have more problems than ghost issues in that point, because the electrodes coming off that will screw with your head and make you sick. So eventually you do need to fix those. Again, if I say your place isn't haunted, no, but let's eliminate some of the things like the excess electricity coming off that stuff that is zapping your brain. But again, thank you for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe at the end of this video. Share it. I'm not going to enable comments because I'm getting really tired of some of the stuff people are putting up here. Some really negative trolls. So if you like what you see here, I'll post up more. All right, that's Rendrag Selak, and have a happy Freya Friday. Enjoy.